Hi, welcome to Observations. I'm John Walsh, host. Today we're going to talk about Volusia County, issues that are affecting the entire community. And joining us today, we have some special guests. First, we have Joe Hannoush, current candidate for U.S. Congress. Welcome, Joe.
Thank you.
We have Nancy Epps, former mayor of Ponce Inlet. So glad you could join us today. And Ruben Colón, currently serving as Volusia County School Board. Welcome, everybody.
Honored to be
Thanks
here.
for joining
Thank
us. Really excited about today's show because I'm not going to be doing most of the work. The panel will be. I've come up with a list of topics that I think people want to hear about to know what's going on throughout Volusia County. So here we go. Ready for the first one? I'm going to read the statement and look for each of you to jump in wherever you want to talk about these issues. The first one that I'd like to bring out is state standardized testing. Leave it alone? Changes required? How do you feel?
I will kick it off on
Ruben,
that
you're
topic.
on.
I knew that was coming. So state standardized testing, we are extremely excited about the fact that the state has finally realized that what we were doing is not working. And we are excited about the end of the FSA. However, we're very anxious about what is coming because a lot of it is still unknown. Just the other day, the Commissioner of Education and the Chancellor of Education were in a meeting, and they were questioned on a lot of the bare bones ideas of what is to come. And it still has not been developed.
Let me ask you to back up a minute. So we're sure what we have isn't working, but we're not sure what the new replacement standardized program is going to be?
Absolutely. What they're talking about is more so progress monitoring. So if you were at, let's say, a level 1 when you began the school year and you advanced to a level 2, that's considered progress rather than giving you the level 5 test and saying you didn't do good enough. And so what they're going to do is they're going to progress monitor potentially with 2 assessments. And then the last one, which will be the real one, is going to look for growth from the first 2 to see if the student progressed and had progression in that school year.
So there's a couple of data points. I'm not sure if either of you have a comment at this point about the standardized testing before I drill down a little bit.
I do, because I do teach. That wasn't my profession throughout my career, but I do teach now. This is my 4th year, so I have a pretty good feel for how this goes. And I've heard a lot of complaints, of course, about the standardized testing. I develop all my own exams because I know what my students need to know, and I feel that I'm the best judge of that. I don't want somebody else's test being given for what I have taught. So I think this is a really good plan, but I can understand you're probably a little uncomfortable about not knowing all the details.
Okay. Joe, any
Yeah,
comment?
I think certainly from what I've heard, it is a better than standardized testing. It's progressive testing, so I think it's it's good. Judging on progress. One of the things that I hear from parents of students is that they're concerned about their students just going off to the next grade, just taking a test, and that's all that matters. So I think that judging progress is definitely a grade up. No pun intended.
So 2 data points. And I don't know where I'm leading with this, but 3rd grade reading level is at a 54% effective rate, yet the high school graduation rate is 87.7 and increasing, whereas 3rd grade reading is decreasing. Going to help us?
So in my time in the school district, what I've learned is that, if you have a student who is behind, what we do right now is we give every student a test based on what we think they should know, whether they've been taught it or not. And so that student is not going to show progress. Mm-hmm. That school grade, which is affected by that, is not going to show progress because that student didn't meet the aptitude of where it is said that they're supposed to be, even though they may have grown in leaps and bounds. And so judging our students by where they are and where we need to get them to be is definitely a better way of doing it. Not only that, but it'll allow every student to learn at their pace, at their level, with the ultimate goal of having a high school diploma.
Welcome to the real business world. I can't think of a business today that's doing business the same way today as it did 2 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago. So
absolutely.
Welcome changed. Great, thank you. Volusia County population is 553,280. Last count. Are we growing too fast?
Well, I'll take that one. Yeah, growth is what it is. I don't think there is such a conclusion as too fast or too slow. Growth is growth. If people come here, they come here. If people leave here, they leave here. the birth rate, whether or death rate affecting each one is what it is. What I don't like is government getting involved and trying to get more people to come here or less people to come here. I think you build, the people here build what they have and build what they want. If they want more people to come here, they'll build something that attracts more people. And yeah, that's it. I mean, it's
Joe,
free market, really.
That was spoken like a libertarian.
Yes.
Proud libertarian he is.
Great answer. Nancy, any comments?
Yes, so I do. One of the problems I have is that a lot of agricultural land is rezoned for commercial or residential, and that's really enabling a lot of this growth. And there is no reason for the governmental agencies to do that necessarily. So I do think that growth is not necessarily always occurring in the right places, and there could be a lot more growth in the inner cities where we need more, residential upgrades, I guess you could say. And also, we're not addressing affordable housing adequately at all. And so we have a lot of people who are falling further and further behind. That's why we have such a big homeless problem, is because people can't afford the rents anymore. All these new apartments that are being built are nice, but look at the rents. $1,500, $1,800 a month. Somebody making $10 or $12 an hour can't afford that.
Absolutely.
And
Ruben,
so, of
any
course,
comment?
I always look at it from the school standpoint, because the reality is that a lot of our schools were built for 700-800 students, and a lot of them are topping off 800, 900 now. Mm-hmm. And so, building a school, I'll give you an example, being in Deltona, largest city in Volusia County, building a middle school that, is costing somewhere probably around $60 million, which is what Deltona Middle is costing us right now. And that school where the students are now was actually built for about 700 students. They have about 1,200 students. And so we're getting to the point where the growth is exceeding the infrastructure of the community where these schools sit. You have parents who are lining up to pick up their kids. They're bleeding out into the road. They're blocking traffic. They're getting traffic tickets, because these are all things that are affected by growth. It's not just build a house. It's, can the school take it? Can the road outside accommodate it?
Let me go back to Joe for a second and challenge you. Government should stay out of the way. I agree with that. However, when growth happens, impact fees are theoretically to pay for the investment in the growth.
Right.
So
that's one of the disadvantages of going first. You hear the other panelists say something, you're like, oh man, I should have mentioned something about that. So yeah,
I'll remember that. I'll start. I'm sorry.
Oh, it's okay. We rotate. That's cool. The impact that Ruben mentioned here, the people, picking up their kids and they're out on the road getting tickets. Yeah, the impact fees should pay for the greater impact of there. Like, we know we're going to grow, and taxes keep going up. I'm not sure if anyone remembers the last time taxes actually went down. I don't remember that. I don't remember us ever taking our property taxes to below rollback. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't happen. So the taxpayers now and in the future are paying for the growth that, the fees, that impact fees that should have happened already. So I'm in favor of actually raising impact fees. People are building, and then just like, the growth comes and then everyone has to pay more. You look at any major city out there, their taxes are through the roof. And it's because they don't pay for the impact before time. Mm-hmm. And then the other point was, growth doesn't pay for itself, basically, is what it comes down to. And also the rezoning and determining the land use. When I believe in property rights, I'm a huge property rights, fan of that. And when you build in a residential neighborhood, you're buying a property in a residential neighborhood, and then the land across from you or your backyard is a golf course, or it's full of trees, and it's right, conservation. It's conservation or business or, whatever. And then they change it to residential and build houses right there, right by you. And, that impedes on your property rights, because you bought it thinking this is what the government determined. It was going to be conservation, and now it's not. Mm-hmm. So I think if you are going to change, the land use or the zoning, you should get the consent from the people around you.
Something you said a minute ago, Nancy, about taking agriculture land and rezoning it for residential. I remember the site of the Tanger Outlet Mall, right. Town Center. That was agriculture, but yes. There seemed to have been sort of a tax incentive for making that land agriculture.
Right.
So are we, moving the pieces in the puzzle for the benefit,
Well, the benefit of whom is the question. Consolidated Tomoka did very well on that deal. And I don't begrudge them that. I'm not saying
decades. They held on to it for decades, but
Right.
certainly, certainly a well-developed area today.
I remember when
more coming.
my parents lived right off of Jimmy Ann Drive, which is a mile or so behind or east of Tanger Mall.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember driving down LPGA toward 95 with my mother one time, and there was nothing there really yet. And I remember her saying, "It really breaks my heart. I know this is all going to be built up someday." And now I drive through there, and I don't even recognize the intersection anymore, between Buc-ee's and the racetrack and all the apartments. Sometimes I get off the interstate there for a particular reason, and I'm like, God, am I in the right place?
I totally agree with you, Joe. They're coming, whether they're invited or not. So we have to deal with it the best way we can.
Yeah, for sure.
No doubt.
Yeah. And one last thing is that I know the hoteliers and the state legislature, they got together to raise the bed fees, right? So they could advertise more people coming here. Well, one of the number one complaints I hear is about, overdevelopment and traffic. So,
You guys are looking at my notes. You've already touched on a couple of subjects that I'm going to bring up in a minute. No, it's great. You mentioned property taxes. This year, the Volusia County approved a 3.4% increase in the rate on top of the increased home values. Is it too much, not enough, or are we still playing catch up?
I'll take that one because I was on a committee that worked to convince the county council that this was not the right year to not go to rollback because of the things you just mentioned. The property values have gone up significantly, and we've had a terrible year. People have been out of work. They've been unable to make the kind of income that they were used to, and it just really did not seem appropriate for this to be the year to not go to rollback. We haven't gone to rollback in Volusia County. I think it's for 11 years, and as you were saying, Joe, you don't remember
Right.
when it last went to rollback. I will say to my credit, in Ponce Inlet, we went down 23% one year, but that was a long time ago now, of course. But it's hard to do. You have to really bite the bullet. But we were very disappointed that only 2 of our county council members voted to go to rollback.
So when you look at growth, what comes first? Rooftops, workforce, or jobs?
Well, workforce and jobs go together, of course, but when we speak of jobs, we need to be looking at what kind of jobs. And we're covered up with the service industry, which suffered greatly during COVID because nobody could go out, or nobody would go out even after they opened up again. So we're just playing major catch-up still.
Yeah.
And obviously we're not the only county. I'm sure that Flagler is too. So
I think it's throughout the state,
Right.
everywhere. Right.
Right.
Speaking of investment in tourism, the area just invested throughout private investment $2 billion in the tourism, the hotels, Daytona One, those types of projects. So are more tourists part of the solution or part of the problem?
As long as they're coming here to spend money, that's a good thing, right? That's what we want. And it helps the service industry. We are a service-driven, county, really. I mean, we look at Daytona, we're NASCAR. We're Daytona Beach, the beach events, the bike events, spring break. We're still a spring break town. So we're very event-driven. We got truck events, and some people are against that. Some people are for it. I know some people get rowdy and whatnot. As long as people want to come here and they're peaceful and they're spending money, let them come here.
Tourism helps the schools, hurts the schools.
Absolutely. So we have our half-cent tax right now, and we exceeded collections by about $5 million than we thought we were going to be, as we guesstimated COVID. And so by all means, have them come spend money because we absolutely need it to provide for that infrastructure. The half cent is what we use to build schools. It's what we use for the technology. It's what we do for the security upgrades. So it is essential to us. So come to Daytona.
Right. Thanks for joining us today on Observations. It was a great discussion. Looking forward to our next visit with you. And it's all about Volusia, what the issues are affecting the community. Thanks again. See you next time.